Welcome everybody to another pure variant deck build. If you guys have seen our deck builds before, this is completely pure in the purest sense of the word. So as you can see, we've got Dinomorphia. So you're just going to see in the extra deck, for example, is going to be Dinomorphia monsters. You're not going to see Appaloosa, Access Code Talker. You're not going to see hand traps in the main deck. You're going to see Dinomorphia and the tech cards that I think help this variation of play in a pure competitive, casually competitive environment. So it's not going to win any, YCS or maybe even locals. But if you've seen what Tyler and I do on the Misplay channel, it is strictly pure variants for casual competitive play. So before I get started, do leave a comment if there's any pure variants that you would like us to do a deck build on, or any live duels that you guys have seen. We'd love to do any of those if we can build those decks. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe, and now let's get into the deck. So because it is a pure variant, the extra deck is very, very straightforward. We run 3 copies of Stealth Bergia. This is mainly fodder, but when we do get our life points down very, very low, there are certain cards in the deck which is, I guess, more outer archetype, where this actually does come in handy for like a Solemn, for example, which I will get into later. I'll show you what we've got in there. So this does come up, but it is definitely the least helpful out of the extra deck. It doesn't help our win condition. Sorry for knocking the camera there. So next we have, and this is the newest one, this is the absolute killer. This is, I think some people refer to it as the VFD of Dinomorphia. It is Dinomorphia Rexterm, brand new in the TCG. This is insane. It is basically a field negate for the monsters our opponent controls. It'll make our opponent's attack become equal to our life points, and any monster they control with attack equal to or greater than our life points, their effects are negated. So this is really, 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 really good. This you have to run. I think if you're doing a competitive build like this, definitely run on the 3, because you want to make sure you go into these. Even if you're doing, I guess, more of a not as pure, but you want to run things like Pot of Extravagance, because Pot of Extravagance can't be ran in things like this because it is pure. You're limited to the Dinomorphia monsters. So if you're going out of archetype, this is still a monster you do not want banished. This is one you want to go in because it absolutely is the win condition in the archetype. So Rexterm is absolutely insane. I'm glad that got printed in the TCG relatively quickly. And then the one we've had since day one is Dinomorphia Ketragina. Ketragina basically just banishes a normal Dinomorphia trap from our grave as a quick effect, and then Ketragina's effect will become the banish trap. So very, very versatile. I wish it was Dinomorphia counter traps as well. It does state normal traps, but very, very good. It does have a lot of synergy with our normal Dinomorphia traps, where this can basically also get us Rexterm, so we can have the Rexterm and the Ketragina ready to go right away. So she actually does help facilitate combos, and she is a powerhouse in her own right. If we get our life points down low enough, her attack will obviously be more. But the fact that it does help facilitate Rexterm is really, really good, and she is good in her own right. So as I said, it is a pure build, so that's the extra deck. It is just Dinomorphia monsters. The main deck is where we start to see some really interesting tech cards. So first we'll go through the Dinomorphia cards. Obviously, if you're familiar with Dinomorphia, Theresia is a 3-of. On summon, she will set a Dinomorphia trap. Any trap as long as it's Dinomorphia. So it allows us to have that extra boost in consistency, and allows us to set up for maybe some heavy hitting cards that will help negate or help float into something else. This is just absolutely a 3-of. Even if you're not playing a pure variant of Dinomorphia, Theresia is a 3-of. Next, we run a playset of Dinomorphia Diplos. Diplos nowhere near as good as Theresia. On summon, instead of setting, he will essentially just Foolish Burial Goods a Dinomorphia trap from the deck to the graveyard, and then burn for 500. So nothing great, but he does float. So if you've got him on the field, and he's destroyed for whatever reason, even your own, there are a lot of card effects that you control which will destroy your own Dinomorphia monsters. So he can then float, bring back the Theresia will then set a Dinomorphia trap directly from the deck upon summon. So He is very, very useful, just not as impactful as Therizia. So you definitely don't have to run him in 3 if you're not playing a completely pure variant. But something like this, those are the monsters in the deck. This is, I'm not really running any crazy dinos. I don't want to run things like Quatlus or Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, things like that. I want to keep it as pure as possible to let the Dinomorphia archetype shine. So, that being said, the cards we have remaining, there are no more monsters, it is all traps. This is a completely control-heavy build. This is insanely consistent, insanely powerful, so let's get into the trap cards. We run 3 copies of Dinomorphia Domain. This is our fusion card. This will go into essentially Therizia, which is, not Therizia, sorry, Ketragena, using 2 monsters from our main deck, send them to the graveyard to fusion summon. This is a must, absolute 3 of staple in the deck. Now the brand new fusion card we got was Dinomorphia Frenzy, which I think is also a 3 of, just for consistency's sake, and especially in a build like this. So this can only be activated in our opponent's turn, but playing a trap card, we're generally only going to be activating things in our opponent's turn for the most part. But this allows us to fusion summon a Dinomorphia monster using 1 monster from our main deck and 1 from our extra deck. So similar to Domain, but this requires 2 from the main deck or 1 from the hand or field. Bit more normal, but you can use 2 from the main deck. Frenzy specifically says 1 from the extra deck, 1 from the main deck. So very, very useful in getting cards like Rexterm, which it does require a Dinomorphia fusion monster. Oh, sorry, that's I didn't realize there was such crazy glare there. It does require a Dinomorphia fusion monster. So basically what you'll be doing a lot of the time is using Stealth Bergia as the fusion fodder to go into the Rexterm. Very, 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 very good. I love this. The fact that this came out the same time as Rexterm obviously completed the build. So definitely a 3 of in my opinion as well. Next, we're going to be running 3 copies of Dinomorphia Sonic. So as long as we control a Dinomorphia fusion monster, actually no, we don't even need to. We just have, it's basically a spell trap negate, will negate and destroy as a counter trap, which is very good. And then we have to destroy a Dinomorphia monster we control. So we don't have to control fusion, just a Dinomorphia monster essentially, because it does need to destroy one after. But very, very good. Now, all Dinomorphia cards, besides the main deck monsters, half our life points as cost. So we get very, very low very, very quickly. After 2 Dinomorphia trap card activations, we're at 2,000 life points, at least. So the counter traps are really good because we can banish them and we don't take battle damage for 1 instance. So we definitely want to see these in the graveyard because we don't want our opponent to just swing for game if we've only got like 50 life points. So we want these on the field as soon as possible, start interrupting, have them in the grave. Diplos comes in handy for that reason, where if we've already got one of these set on the field, we can just, Foolish Burial Goods another one to the grave to be ready in case our opponent does decide they can sneakily swing for game. So very, very good as just a spell or trap negate, but also very good in the graveyard because it helps an instance of battle damage that would potentially swing for game. 2 copies of Brute. This is a non-targeting destruction of a card, so target 1 card your opponent controls, target 1 card you control, destroy them. Very, very good. Generally we're going to be, if we've got Diplos on the field, target the Diplos, that'll float into Therizia. On summon, Therizia will then set a trap. So the destruction of our Dinomorphia cards doesn't mean anything. It's really, really good, actually, because we can float. Even our fusion monsters all float without cost, which is very, very helpful. I don't think you need to run this at 3. With Ketragena being able to banish this from the graveyard and her effect becomes Brute, means you essentially have 2 copies of each. So you're basically running 4 of these, despite only running 2. So I think 2 Dinomorphia Brute, it doesn't help with consistency, it's more of an interruption card. So I think 2 is the sweet spot for it. 1 copy of Dinomorphia Alert. This will just special summon up to level 8. So the levels you special summon from the graveyard have to equal no more than 8. So you can special summon a Diplos and a Therizia. You can special summon a Ketragena, for example. It's more of a Call of the Haunted, but more specific. It's searchable, and you can banish it. So all the normal Dinomorphia trap cards, banish them, and for the rest of the turn you don't take any effect damage from your opponent. So also very, very helpful. But alert, I generally don't see it come up. It's come up maybe once or twice, so I run it at 1. And same thing with Dinomorphia Brutes, where because of Ketragena she makes 1 copy, essentially 2 copies. This is essentially 2 copies as well, so I think 1 is perfectly fine for the moment. I run 3 copies of Dinomorphia Reversion, another counter trap for the Dinomorphia archetype. So the same thing, you can banish it from grave to prevent an instance of battle damage so your opponent can't swing for game. But this is a very unique one. So upon activation, banish any counter trap from your graveyard. This effect then becomes the effect of the counter trap upon activation. Now you may be thinking, in terms of counter trap, we've only got Dinomorphia Sonic. Dinomorphia Sonic is a very good target for reversion, but then it's probably not worth running 3 of these. Well, we run 3 reversions. We'll pop these up here because of now the tech cards we're getting into. The perfect tech card for this deck, 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. The reason why this is perfect is because it halves our life points. We want our life points pretty much as low as possible. We want to just get there as quick as possible. So Solemn Judgment obviously being probably arguably the best Solemn card, and it's a counter trap. So you can actually, if this has already been used in the graveyard, we control a Dinomorphia Fusion because that's essentially its requirements. Activate Reversion, banish the Judgment. This is essentially just Solemn Judgment. So that's why we run 3 of these, because we also run 3 Solemn Strikes. Solemn Strike isn't as perfect because it does require a fixed 1500. But if we do have Stealth Bergier out, and this is where Stealth Bergier comes in handy, if our life points are 2000 or less, we don't need to pay cost for any Dinomorphia card or trap card. So all of a sudden, if our life points are 2000 or less, which they always pretty much will be, Bergier will essentially make Solemn Strike free. So it is also good to get this out after we've already established the board. So Dinomorphia Reversion is essentially here because it gives us another 6 copies of these, which is so difficult to play around. We can have 2 of these set. Okay, we have 2 of these set. We activate the Solemn Judgment, negate, destroy, spell or trap. And as long as we can control a Dinomorphia Fusion monster, we can then activate Reversion to banish the Judgment to get essentially a second Judgment. Same thing with the Strike, just absolutely insane. I think these work perfectly with it. I wouldn't splurge and also go the Solemn Warning. There's no need to, because we've got the Dinomorphia Sonic, because we've got more interruptions within the archetype as well. I think this is the perfect amount of Solemn cards to run, and it's absolutely brutal. Not many decks, if any, can play through that, even whilst running this pure. Another fantastic tech card to run, 3 Ferret Flames. This has definitely been getting a lot more hype since Dinomorphia were announced. Essentially, this forces our opponent, to shuffle monsters they control into the deck until monsters they control, their combined original attack are equal to or lower than our life points. Very quickly our life points will get to 2000, 1500, 250, very quickly. Which means our opponent, we essentially clear board. We make our opponent clear board. It's kind of like an in-archetype evenly matched. Even though I say it's not in-archetype, it is a tech card. But it works so well within this archetype, it feels like a pseudo Dinomorphia card. So this absolutely 3 of. We want to see this in our hand because as soon as we get our life points to 2000, all boss monsters in the game are essentially at least 2000 attack or more. I would wager more. So Ferret Flames is an instant out to all of them. So very good. I advise running this out of 3 because it helps clear board instantly. Any kind of mass, monster clear on our opponent's side, that's non-destruction. Absolutely insane. For draw power, you run 2 copies of Hope for Escape. This essentially is just pay 1,000 life points, then we draw a card equal to the difference in life points, 2,000 per card. So it actually works really, really well, because even in our opponent's first turn, we generally get to around 2,000 to 1,000 life points. The way I play it, at least, I like to play it a bit more risky. Say we get to 2,000, activate this, we're on 1,000. Our opponent should be on 8,000 because we've not done any burn damage to them. We're drawing 3 cards, just like that. And then we can start building our back row again. So this is insane. I don't advise running it at 3, it will brick. And if we have Stealth Bergia, we don't have to pay the 1,000 cost. So also, Stealth Bergia is very good with cards like this that are out of archetype. But I think 2 is really, really good, and being able to draw 2, 3 cards, insane. Next, we run 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. Just run this to get rid of back row. I don't, in the meta that Tyler and I play in, back row cards are quite strong. We run Solemns in every deck. So Twin Twisters are always powerful. Warning Points are a pesty one to get around. Summon Limit can be very, very annoying, and Floodgates like that. So Heavy Storm Duster is here to fit the theme. You can definitely run Twin Twisters, or you can get rid of back row removal entirely, run a couple Ash Blossoms or a few Ash Blossoms. There are definitely cards you can take out to fit a bit more competitive, but Heavy Storm Duster in the meta that Tyler and I play is an absolute must. Yeah, it is absolutely annoying when your opponent sets up back row, intending to make plays, turns out they can't. Titanocider, 2 copies is the next card we run. I don't see this card getting a lot of love, but I feel like it does 2 things for us. If our opponent controls a monster special summon from the extra deck, make its attack 0 permanently and negate its effects permanently. So it does only work on monsters special summon from the extra deck, but that's basically all the monsters we're going to be having trouble with. There's not a lot of monsters now from the main deck which are going to be achieving a win condition. So this always shows up. But the reason I run this over, say, a Lost Win, which you could argue is more versatile, is because it puts their attack to 0. When we are playing at 2,000, 1,500, 250 life points, where every move our opponent makes can potentially put them in a easily lethal position for them to win, if their attack 0, we're good. We don't need to banish our counter traps from the grave to prevent an instance of damage. It puts us in a better position. So not only is it an effect negate, making the attack 0 actually comes in handy for this archetype. So this also feels like another pseudo Dinomorphia card. I definitely think running at 2 is all you need to do, because we should have game at that point, honestly, with all of the other interruptions we've got. And we don't want to open 2 of those in the hand, maybe 1, and that should do. 1 copy of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Anti-Spell Fragrance, you know what it does. Your opponent has to set spells before they activate them, so they essentially become traps. Insane. This can actually single-handedly win games. Something like Sky Striker going against Sky Striker, brutal. This shuts down Sky Striker entirely. So 1, I don't think you need 2, because if you open 2 and if you've got the first one on the field, it's just a dead card. So 1 is absolutely fine. This is a really weird card. I've never ran it in anything else. Jar of Avarice. Shuffle 5 cards we control into the deck, draw 1 card. Sounds bad, it's essentially a negative, it does require a bit of setup. But the reason why I absolutely feel like I have to run this at 1 copy is because what we saw before, these are our monsters. We have 6 main deck monsters. That is it. And that you go through these very, very quickly. We're fusion summoning from the deck all the time. We're going to open some of these in the hand. We're going to summon them so they're no longer in the deck. I've lost duels where, say I'm playing something against like Live Twin or Orchest, where they can out-resource so many decks, and I automatically lose because they clear my board and I don't have any more monsters left in the deck. There's nothing I can do. I can't fusion summon. So Pot of Avarice just allows us to extend. I don't run it for the draw power. I run it for the fact that I want 5 cards of my choosing, mainly monsters, back in the deck so I can start fusion summoning again. Even the extra deck monsters, I want them back in the extra deck so I can start using them again. So you don't have to run this. Like I said, you can replace it for an Ash Blossom, whatever you want, a different Floodgate if you'd like. But this has, I think, will be very, very helpful for me at a 1. If I draw it, it shouldn't be dead. And it will help me just for those grind matches. A lot of the decks we build, we try and build them to handle everything. So this card will help absolutely with trying to win against those really, really grindy decks that can out-resource most. Jar of Avarice is really good. Last set of cards in the deck is Trap Trick, probably one of the best traps in the game if you're running a trap deck. Banish one trap from your deck, set the other, and it can be activated this turn. I was running this at 3, but this deck is so damn fast for a trap deck, and the fact that 3Z allows me to set from the deck because I can fusion summon from the deck. 2 copies of Trap Trick feels like enough. I can more than get away with just running 2. So if you don't open a Frenzy or don't open a Domain, activate the Trap Trick to just set one directly from the deck and fusion summon. And most likely we go to Ketradrina because Ketradrina will then fusion summon into Rex term. So you got 2 just off of Trap Trick. So Trap Trick is a must. You can definitely run this at 3 if you'd like, if you want to make it a little bit more consistent, but I've not had any issues running this at 2. So that is the pure variant for Dinomorphia. Like I said, it's not going to be absolutely crazy with any YCS or tournament play, but in terms of pure variant decks, this deck is absolutely insane. Tyler and I have played a lot of trap decks. We've played things, he's built Trap Tricks a couple times, he's got Altergeist, I've had Eldritch. They've all seen, you know, a variation in success. Eldritch and Altergeist obviously being the better of the 3, but this stands out as the fastest, most consistent, most control-heavy trap deck we've ever played, and this is at a pure variant as well. So if there's any trap cards that you would like us to run in a deck like this which you think could help instead of certain cards, absolutely suggest it. Some of you guys have been absolutely amazing with suggesting cards that I've actually put in because they've been really good suggestions and I think they've helped. So I've really appreciated that with you guys. Like I said, leave a comment and tell us some other decks you would like us to do. I know someone's been requesting Phantom Knights, which Tyler will be doing very, very soon. We'll have loads of decks. We've just had a tournament which hopefully you guys will see soon. We're putting a lot of work into that, so a lot of the decks from there hopefully will be doing a deck build as well. So just bear in mind, purest of pure with the best tech cards we can find. Let us know what you guys would like to see more of. Peace.